change the subject a little bit, right?
Mhm.
You had a close friend that lived with sickle cell disease, passed away unexpectedly. Tell us about your friendship.
Um, wow. We we talked all the time. We was together all day in the yard, and I said we was gonna go home because we had to work the next day, and my sister called me, and she said, "Charles, Joe passed away." I was like I said, "That's a sick joke because I just left him. It ain't even been 2 hours," you know? So she told me to call his brother, and I called his brother, and he was like, "Yeah, Charles," he said, "we're at the hospital now," you know? And then shortly after that, it wasn't even a year because his son came in and found him. And, so less than a year, the same thing happened to his mom. But everybody called me and asked me, "Charles, are you okay?" And I was like, "You guys are asking me, am I okay?" I said, "What about Javelis?" You know, this kid has came to his parents' house and found both of them that's no
Oh,
longer
wow.
here,
Wow.
you know? And today, um, I think he's went through some changes because one of my sisters has his daughter and she's raising his daughter. But that was we was together from little kids. We started the school together. We went through high school, went through adulthood together. So that day, we spent that whole day hanging out, and to go home and then someone call me and tell me that he's not here. And I know it haven't even been 2 hours. Haven't even been 2 hours since we just left each other and everything was fine, you know? But I know that they had been dealing with it. His whole family, pretty much everyone that's no longer here out of his family, that's what it was, sickle cell that they have been dealing with. And it went deep into his family, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think there's only like 5 or 6 of them left, but every last one of them passed away of sickle cell. And his dad was really good friends of my dad. And I used to thought that when we went to the house, my dad just took us there to play with them because he had boys, I got boys, and I didn't. And then one day, as an adult, Joe said, he said, "Charles," he said, "You remember that moonshine still your dad and my dad had out in the woods?" And I never ever went out in the woods. We was always just racing from the road to the house the whole time I was there. Every time I went there, we would just always race, you know? So we basically grew up together. And that was that was pretty hard, you know? And then when his wife called me, he was in Stockholm's at the time, and she said, "Charles, I'm so sorry." And I was like, I'm thinking something that happened to one of the kids, you know?
Mhm.
And so I was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "What happened?" They had a son named Isaac and Autumn. I was like, "Is Isaac and Autumn okay?" Because I didn't think of that with him, you know? So here I am going through it again, and it kind of it brings back just those times, but still, I stand to this day, and sometime I look at a lot of the photos and see that these people aren't here anymore, you know?